Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Was the Black Dragon of Apocalypse. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto didn't do anything but stare at Grandini, the Sky Dragon Queen. He hadn't seen the big puff of cloud, Igneel, or any of the other dragons that had taken a Dragonslayer for 400 years. The last thing he remembered about her was his claw ripping her magic, or more specifically her soul, right out of her body, just like he had done to the other dragons. He did the same thing to his dad. He killed his family, and it's a sickening truth that he enjoyed it as he kept tearing them apart. Now that he's standing in front of one of the dragons he was closest to, he doesn't know where to start. Grandini just smiled at him in a nice way, as if she could read his mind. Now, Naruto, don't tell me you still blame yourself for what happened to me and the other dragons. Stop trying to carry the weight of the war and the whole world on your shoulders. It's not good for your health. Plus, as you said, it just makes you look like a typical emo. She said it like she was yelling at a child. Just hearing his name made Naruto look very angry. I told you not to call me an emo ever again. I'm not allowed to be called or become that word. I've seen enough of that crap from people around me to know that I don't want to be like that Uchiha or Zeref. Naruto let out a growl. Grandini did nothing but narrow her eyes in irritation. And I thought I told you not to curse, swear, or use bad language in front of me. I remember that Anna, Irene, and I told you over and over again that you should be polite and respectful to your older people. Naruto just smirked evilly. Oh, so now you're old? Does that mean I can now call you grandma? Grandini's eyes got bigger and then narrowed in anger. I thought I told you not to mention the age of a woman. That is an important topic that should never be talked about. She gave him a yell. Naruto just looked amused. But I never brought it up, you did. I was just making sure. Naruto said it in a calm way. Grandini growled again, then sighed to calm down. You haven't changed at all, know what I mean? You are the same rude little brother I used to watch over. Naruto just smirked. And you're the same bossy big sister who never seems to learn that I didn't just give proper respect and manners to everyone, no matter who they were. The two just looked at each other for a while before finally laughing together. It had been a long time since the two of them laughed together. It was something they both wanted but couldn't have. After laughing for a while, the two were able to calm down enough to talk in a normal way. It looks like my idea was right. You and the other dragons did hide in your Dragonslayers. Naruto said it at last. Grandini nodded. Yes, after what happened, it was the only way to save ourselves, and it was also the only way to keep our Dragonslayers from becoming like you. That's at least what we hoped, she said. Naruto nodded. I agree with you and I understand why you did it, but that doesn't make it okay. You all knew that my research on that secret art was still in the testing phase. The whole thing was based on theories and math. There was nothing useful about it. We don't know what could happen because of this. We don't know for sure, but it's possible that once you leave, you won't be able to come back and will go to the afterlife. How can all of you 5 dragons do something so stupid? Answer me, Nei-san. Grandini looked sad at the child she was raising as her own. She knew why he was mad, but there was nothing else she could do to save the Dragonslayers. Even if it meant they would die if they left their bodies, it would be worth the risk as long as their children were safe. Naruto, you have a right to be angry, but you and I both know that the kids were too young to learn Dragonslayer magic. Something we didn't find out until a long time after. We couldn't let those kids go through what you and Irene went through. We promised that we would do whatever it took to protect our kids, even if it meant taking risks. If you don't like it, tough. It's over and done with, so there's nothing you can do about it. Naruto just growls, then lets out a sigh, pinches his nose, and sighs again. Sigh. He asked himself, seriously, how did I make dragons so stubborn that they were willing to throw away their lives so easily? Grandini just smiled in response. You gave us ideas, Naruto. You showed us the real potential that people have but don't use. You are the winner of all of our contests. The first person to reach a level of success we could never reach. We just wanted to do what you did. It's not like I set a great example when I turned into a dragon. We all make mistakes, Naruto. What matters is what we learn from that mistake. And the fact that you are now training Wendy shows that you have learned from your mistakes and are starting to get your life back on track, Naruto. You're getting back to life. When he heard that, Naruto just raised an eyebrow. I don't really think we can call it living. Even more so because my biology is so bad. I don't think I'll die for a very long time, if ever, after all I've eaten and absorbed. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I need to make up for the wrongs I've done against the Bible. Especially against the dragons, Wendy, and the rest. Grandini just bent her head and nuzzled Naruto with it. Naruto didn't fight back and let the giant pillow have her moment while scratching the back of her giant ear. Naruto Otudo, I'm glad you're back to how you used to be. Naruto gave a head shake. I haven't gone back nor have I stayed still. I just began walking forward again. Grandini turned her head away from Naruto to look at him. Naruto, now that you know I am here and where the other dragons are, do you plan to tell Wendy and the other dragon slayers? Naruto just gave her a strange look. It sounds like you don't want Wendy to know. I don't think she and the other dragon slayers are ready to know, to be honest. They still have time to grow up and get better. Then maybe they'll be ready. Naruto can only frown. I'm sorry, but you and the other dragons are very wrong. Grandini just stared at him to see what he would say. If you've been with them the whole time, you know everything that's happened to them. Wendy's journey to where she is now has been very long. I think she wants to know the truth. She is ready to take on the job. Grandini just kept looking at the blonde king of the dragons. What about all the others? Natsu and Gajeel might be ready, but I refuse to show them the same respect. They aren't good enough to be called dragon slayers. The dog growled. Naruto, isn't that a little too harsh? Grandini asked. Even more, Naruto growled. No, it's not. Those two from Sabertooth act like their dragon slayers are toys and show them off to make kids jealous. Not only that, but they brag about killing their dragons. They are proud that they killed the dragons that raised them and treated them like their own flesh and blood. I'm embarrassed to be put in the same category as them. They do not kill dragon. They are ashamed to everything that makes someone a dragon slayer in the first place. I know you don't like how things turned out for Sting and Rogue, but Naruto, there was nothing you could do to help them. Acnologia and Skiadrum thought that if they made their dragon slayers think they killed them, they would be ready in their minds to kill the real thing. Well, they were so wrong. Those two have turned into cocky jerks who like to pick on the weak and make fun of people's ideas about friendship. Still, those two walk around with exceed. Grandini, they are the very definition of hypocritical jerks. Hell, those fools think they can kill me. What the hell is wrong with those two? Grandini sighed, knowing that Naruto was upset for a very good reason. When dragon slayers were proud like Sting and Rogue, they joined the other side of a war and killed many dragons and dragon slayers. Many of the birds that were killed were very young. This did not sit well with Naruto. Not even close. In fact, when Naruto found them, he killed all of the traitors and the enemy dragons without mercy. By the end, the area where they found Naruto was covered in a sea of blood. Everyone couldn't believe how cruel Naruto was. Things got even worse when Naruto put the heads of the traitors on spikes and told the other dragon slayers that if they ever thought about betraying the dragons again, he would do much worse things to them than what he had done to the others. Now, hearing that two of the kids he helped take care of had turned out to be traitors like the ones he killed was a big blow to him. It felt like they were spitting on everything Naruto gave up for them. Naruto, I know that you are mad. You have every right to be upset, but there's nothing you can do to change how they were raised in this time. You can only set Wendy on the right path, like you're doing now. Again, Naruto growled, but this time he stopped and reluctantly nodded. Okay, but if Natsu, Gajeel, Laxus, or Wendy don't do it first, I will smash them to pieces. Since we're talking about Wendy, you need to know something about the power you gave her when she was young. This made Naruto frown. What went on? Naruto, you didn't know what would happen when you gave her that power. The dragon seed in Kurama's body was destroyed by the power of her chakra, which you gave to her. Then it merged with her magic to kill dragons and turned into something else. Now that she has this part of her power, she can change into her dragon form without having to go through the dragonification process. In a way, she is now the same as you and Irene. A dragon slayer from the 4th generation. This makes Naruto's eyes widen. What? I know. I was as surprised as you were. She won't be able to use it right away, of course. She still needs to learn more about Dragon Force in Elemental Avatar mode, Sky Dragon Queen mode. But now, she might be the strongest dragon slayer of her generation. That is, if Ignil's son doesn't give in to his own demons. But there are still results from this. Naruto watches her. What consequences? Naruto, the power you gave her is horrible and evil. It gets stronger from the bad things she feels about it. And now it has combined with her harsh side, making it even worse. You know better than anyone how hard it can be to control a Slayer's cruel side. But Wendy will feel even worse about this. If she lets her dark side take over, she could turn into a full dragon and go on a rampage, just like Jinchuriki did in your world and some dragon slayers did 400 years ago. He looked at the ground. This was both great and awful. The good news is that Wendy will be stronger than ever and may be able to do what she set out to do in the first place. Get as strong as she can as a dragon slayer. Grandini said, though, that she could go on a rampage and hurt people without even meaning to. He would feel like he had already seen it. Before he looks at Grandini, he sighs. Grandini. I can see why you're worried. Trust me, I do. But you know that I gave her that power to keep her safe. I gave her that power because I think she can handle it and use it to keep others safe. You say she'll lose control, but I know Wendy will be able to control her power. I have plans in place to stop her from going crazy if she does lose control. And if it turns out to be too much, I will stop her myself. Grandini looks at him, sighs, and then gives Naruto a smile. Okay, Naruto, I'm going to trust you to handle this. Naruto nodded in gratitude. Tell me, can I help you in any way? Grandini shook her head. I don't know of any. Unless you were able to find a way to finish your research? I went back to the drawing board and I might have found a solution, but I'm not going to use any of you 5 as test subjects, so it can wait. Grandini nodded. Now, about my location, tell Wendy. She was about to say more, but Naruto stopped her by holding up his hand. Relax. I'll not tell her now, I promise. But don't think I won't help the Dragon Slayers after July 7th. I won't stop, no matter what you say. They should hear the truth, Grandini. Sigh. Lots of Naruto. I can't really stop. You have my blessings. Naruto nodded. Say, thank you. I think it's time for you to leave now. Naruto soon stopped being able to be thought of. I'll see you soon, Naruto. Have a good time with Wendy. She can be trouble. As he faded away, Naruto laughed. Grandini frowns and looks to the other side of the mindscape. There, he sees a dark puddle start to bubble up, and then something rises and takes the shape of a woman. Why didn't you say who you were? It's not yet my time to show myself. Soon, though, Wendy will be able to use that power. So I will show up soon. Wendy will lose her composure. It's going to happen. Perhaps, but she will learn to control her power. Even if you try to take her, her father will stop you. The bloop's voice just laughed in a mean way. The voice said, we'll see, and then it went back into the pool. Before looking up in the mindscape, Grandini just sighed. Wendy, please stay safe. Don't go down into the dark. When Naruto comes to, he sees that he is back at the camp. He looks over and sees that Wendy is sound asleep, not caring about anything. Naruto just sighs and then looks up at the sky at night. What the hell have I done to myself? Wendy made the wind gather around her fingers. Cut the air. Wendy throws several wind blades at her opponent, which head straight for her. Naruto took a careful look at the blades. He raises his hand, and above the appendage, a spinning disc of Eternano appears. Kinzen. Naruto muttered as he sent it out to fight against the blades. When the two attacks hit each other, the Kinzen is able to block all 10 blades until the attacks cancel each other out. Wendy put her hands out in front of her, palms facing forward, and a magic circle appeared. Tenryu no Tatsumaki, Sky Dragon's Tornado. A huge wind tornado forms and heads straight for her father, who is blonde. Naruto focuses his Eternano in his hand until it forms a blade around it. Hakai no Yeba, Destruction Blade. He mutters something, then swings his arm down and cuts the tornado in half, destroying it completely. Naruto looked at his daughter again and again. That's not good enough, my dear daughter. Then Naruto spreads his arms out, with his palms half closed as if he were trying to squeeze something. Naruto smirked darkly. You might need a little motivation. Naruto's story ended on a dark note as magic tendrils grew out of his hands and wrapped around the trees. Each tree that was touched soon had a black aura around it. Wendy could hear the plants cracking and snapping as they were twisted into a new shape. When the aura went away, Wendy saw that every tree it had touched had turned into one of 25 demons. All of the demons stood about 5 feet tall. They had 6 roots for legs, and the tree trunk was the demon's main body. It had long arms with bushes at the wrists and 3 fingers with claws for hands. The most noticeable thing about it was that it had 3 horns made from roots. 2 of the horns were on the head, and 1 was on the forehead. Below the middle horn was a red eye. Naruto laughed at the girl, who kept looking at the demons in a bad way. Let me tell you about Mokuryu no Majutsu Shi, which means wood dragons' demonic servants. It's a spell for wood dragons and the people who kill them. It lets them make a whole army of wood monsters to fight for them. The servants they make are stronger the bigger the forest is and the more control they have over it. This breed is what I like to call trevenants. Let's see how you do against them, my chibi-heim. Wendy didn't look scared at all and seemed even more determined. Ready, when you are, to-san. She shouted in defiance. Before telling the trees to attack, Naruto laughed. Wendy puts her arms across her chest in a cross shape. Veneer. Arms. Armor. Wendy shouts about her spells of enchantment as her speed, power, and defense go up. She quickly jumps into the air to avoid a swinging arm from the first demon that comes after her. She pulls back her arm and makes a fist. Wham! Crunch. With a sickening crunch, Wendy's punch goes right through the demon's head. The demon screams in pain and falls apart. Wendy then sees 5 more jump up to attack her from all sides. But before the first one could hit her, she starts to spin around in a clockwise pattern. She makes a dome of wind and magic power that protects her and hurts the demons at the same time. Tenryu no Kaiten. Heavenly spin of the sky dragon. As the demons are sent away after the attack, the dome of wind tears them apart. Then Wendy sees 7 of them stretch out their arms and their fingers turn into long wooden spears that are pointed at her. She claps her hands together and a magic circle appears in front of her. At the same time, the wind twists into several air swords. She yells, "Wind blades!" as she throws them at the demons. The blades hit the spears and cut right through them. She goes away quickly in a gust of wind. Before she showed up right in front of the demons with wind torrents on her arms. Tenryu no Yokugeki, Sky Dragon's wing attack. The 7 wood demons are caught in the windstorms, which are tearing them apart. The last 12 came at her from all sides, but Wendy didn't give up. A magic seal appeared right below Wendy, whose arms were outstretched and her palms were glowing. The seal started to grow until it covered the area below the 12 demons. Sky Dragon's wave wind. Tenryu no Namiroshi. Wendy yells and crosses her arms as a huge tornado comes out of the seal and catches the last of the demons and breaks them apart. Wendy looks at her father and uses her Fupo wind step to disappear in a blur of wind. Naruto blocks her right punch and raises his other arm. A huge column of earth rises up from the ground below them and hits Wendy as it goes up into the sky. Wendy gets up quickly as the effects of her enhancements start to wear off. She lifts her right leg up and focuses her magic on it, coating it with a thick layer of magic. Tenryu no Sutenkyaku. Heavenly foot of pain from the sky dragon. She hit the platform with an axe kick. The force of the attack made the pillar of earth shake. As cracks started to appear all around the pillar, it broke into pieces. Wendy takes a deep breath and claps her hands together. Great breakthrough, Daidopa. She let out a strong gust of wind, which blew the pieces of earth right at her father. Naruto seems amused by the attack and just puts his arm out in front of the boulders coming at him. Hakai Reza, destruction laser. From his hand came a beam of Eternano. All of the coming boulders and what's left of the earth pillar are completely destroyed by the beam. Wendy softly lands on the ground and looks right at her dad. Naruto puts down his arm and gives his daughter a smirk. His eyes are filled with amusement and pride. Good, good. Don't stop being careful. Keep your muscles tight and don't give up until your opponent is out for good. Naruto raises his right index finger and starts to spin it. Water starts to swirl above him and forms the shape of a dragon that is about 5 meters tall and 10 meters long. Naruto raises his ring and middle fingers as lightning and wind dragons start to form next to the water dragon. Wendy didn't take any chances as she crossed her arms and yelled. Ill arms, ill veneer, ill armor. These were the most powerful versions of the spells she used to charm people. She tensed up as she waited for Naruto to do something. The blonde in question kept grinning until it turned into a chilling smile. Then Naruto raises his hand above his head and closes it into a fist. While he did this, the 3 dragons merged into one dragon that was almost 3 times as big as the original 3. Wendy's eyes got big when she saw what was going on. Just now, her dad did a triple unison raid? Even with just one arm. How much more sad can her father get? Naruto just kept smiling in a bad way. Let's see what you can do. Typhoon Dragon Bullet. Triple unison raid. He yelled as the dragon roared and flew straight for Wendy. Wendy didn't waste any time. She did a Kaden right away to stop the attack. Wendy gritted her teeth and did her best to keep her defense dome in place so that it could withstand the attack and stay in place. Wendy let out a roar as she pushed back the attack. The collision led to an explosion, which filled the area with thick smoke. Naruto wrapped some wind around his arm and made the smoke go away with one horizontal sweep. He saw that the area around had suffered a lot of damage, including trees that had been uprooted by the wind, soaked by the water, and then burned by the electricity. He sees Wendy on her hands and knees and out of breath, so he decides to help her. He goes away quickly in a black blur. Wendy barely had time to move when her danger senses told her to get out of the way. She does a black flip just in time to avoid her father's attack. When she sees the weapons in his hands, she narrows her eyes. From his hands came 2 red beams of energy. The blades of the ethereal. She thought with a grimace, Dad must really like this if he can call up those weapons. One of her father's weaker abilities was the ethereal blades. Well, she thought she was cheap. They were energy blades that could move at different speeds, which changed how well they cut. At the base, they were painful, swollen clubs, and Wendy had to deal with them up close in a few of her spars. Wendy was thinking about something when Naruto came out of the sky to hit her again. Wendy made 2 wind blades that she used to block the 2 blows. Never take your eyes off of the opponent. Naruto put more force on his swords, which made Wendy stumble. Or it can get you killed. He yelled before giving her right arm a hard roundhouse kick. Crack. Wendy's arm was easily broken, and she fell to the ground with a sickening crack. She kept going around and around until she hit a tree trunk hard. Snap. Wendy gasped when she heard a crack as the tree hit her shoulder. Wendy looked at her shoulder and saw that it was now out of place. Great, she said sarcastically. One arm is broken and the other shoulder is out of place. If I hadn't been used to having my limbs broken by now, I would be dying on the ground from the pain. That was one thing she was glad the training was so hard for. She got really good at dealing with pain, but that didn't make it any less painful for her. Wendy got back on her feet slowly and with a lot of pain. When she looked up, her father was still watching her to see what she would do next. Wendy closed her eyes and then hit the trunk hard with her shoulder. The limb was back in place with another loud snap. Wendy grunted because it hurt before she checked her arm to see if everything was back to normal. She turned to see her dad looking at her a little bit surprised. She quickly put her good arm over the broken one, and soon a green glow appeared around it. The Tenryu no Shozen, Sky Dragon's Mystic Palm, was her new healing spell. It was a spell based on her father's old-world medical ninjutsu. She got the basics from her mother's notes and combined them with her own medical knowledge and skills to make a healing spell that, with enough training, could heal not only her allies quickly and from a distance, but also her. The main reason her father wanted her to learn was so she could heal herself when she didn't have anyone to help her. The problem was that the spell had to be done with a lot of focus. If you make a mistake, the limb you're trying to heal could blow up. The other problem is that the spell takes a lot of magical energy to do, so she had to be very careful about when to use it so she didn't use up all of her reserves. She sighed when the spell was finally done and her arm was back to normal. Naruto might be surprised by how Wendy put her arm back on. When he was a genin, he would do things like that. He gave a head shake. His daughter was acting too much like his old, carefree self. He was really afraid that she was becoming too much like him. He looked at her again. "Are you ready to go on?" "Yes," she said. Naruto's blades suddenly got smaller until they disappeared into his hands. The 2 hands start to glow a strange blue color and send out small sparks. He puts his hands together over his head and claps them. Wendy's eyes got big when she saw the attack coming, and she started making wind blades right away. Reiza Sakasu, Laser Circus. Windblade Barrage. As their 2 attacks went off, the 2 yelled. For Naruto, a barrage of energy projectiles from his joined palms, and for Wendy, a number of wind blades from her. When the two attacks hit each other, they cancelled each other out. As the smoke cleared, the two of them just looked at each other until Wendy felt a pulse of magic from everywhere. She looked around and was shocked to see ether nanoparticles appear and gather around her father. She saw a sphere of dust form above her father's head. Alarm bells went off. She quickly got ready for the worst when she realized what her father was about to do. She quickly started to gather the magical air particles in the air and quickly started to take them in. Her magic started to shine, and a glow started to form around her. Air started to flow into every part of her body. Her eyes got slits, her nails got sharper and more like claws, her hair got pink highlights, her skin got white scales, and finally, 3 black lines started to form on her cheeks. Whisker marks. Tsukai Doraibu, Skydrive, she said under her breath when she had finished changing. This was the Dragon Slayer's second to last form before they learned Dragon Force. It gives the Dragon Slayer an ability boost that can easily go up to 10 times their normal level. Wendy had learned it after 3 months of hard training, but she didn't fully master it until she had more practice. But she had to deal with the problem at hand right now. She yelled, "Ill Veneer, ill arms, ill armor," as she was once again surrounded by her enchantment spells. Her drive mode will give her a boost to her abilities and help her handle the attack that is coming, she hopes. She saw that the ball was almost done and was about the size of a normal beach ball. Wendy started to take in as much air as she could and get ready for her counterattack. Naruto kept working on the sphere until it was done. He focused as he forced the sphere to get half as big as it was before. He opens his mouth, showing his razor-sharp teeth, and swallows the ball of raw energy. As streams of energy came out of his mouth, his cheek puckered up a bit. He smiles in a mean way at Wendy, who looks back at him with a defiant glare and puckered cheeks. Hakai. Destiny. Tenryu Noah. Sky Dragonsa. Hoko, Roar. The 2 Dragon Slayers let out roar attacks that are unique to them. Wendy saw a huge wind monster, while Naruto saw a beam of pure magical energy. Boom. When the 2 attacks hit each other, they cause a huge explosion that blocks both Dragon Slayers' views of their opponents. Explosive attacks send dust, broken things, and even trees flying. After the explosion, a huge cloud of dust is left in its wake. Naruto gets his sight back and uses the Byakugan right away to look for Wendy, but he can't find her. He knows that attack wasn't enough to destroy her, let alone kill her, especially since he's staying way back to make sure his daughter lives to see the next day. He keeps looking, but he still can't find Wendy. Chibi-Heim, where have you been? You're hiding somewhere with the dust cloud. If I were a normal enemy, I'd say that was a smart move. But I told Minato 7 years ago that I am far from normal. Naruto exclaimed, then took a deep breath and yelled. Tenryu no Hoko. Naruto used the same Sky Dragon roar as his daughter. The difference was that it was a lot bigger and had a lot more power. It tore through the cloud of dust and debris and continued sailing forward, ripping more trees and debris from the ground and sending them flying everywhere. Naruto stopped and looked around, but he still couldn't find Wendy. There was a small change in the wind behind him. He used his tail to stop a surprise attack that was coming at him. When he turned around, Wendy was about to crush his head with her teeth. Naruto smiled, knowing that the plan was good but would fail in the end. Not too bad, Wendy-chan, but you need to do better than that. Before he saw her smile, he said. There was something wrong. I know, Tu-chan, she said as another Wendy appeared above the first one and the first one disappeared in a puff of wind. His eyes get very big. A wind squall? He was about to catch the second Wendy when he heard a crack and saw Wendy come out of the ground. The second Wendy disappeared as the real Wendy put her hands over her face and yelled, Solar Flare. Naruto is hit by a blinding light that completely blocks his sight. He groans and then jumps away. A mix of wind clones, Solar Flare, and the move I used against Neji. She really is my daughter, hee. But I shouldn't have expected anything less from her. Naruto was proud of the strategy his daughter used against him, and he wondered what she would do next. He didn't have to wait long because he could feel his daughter coming toward him with a lot of magic power in her hand. That could mean only. Naruto's hand glowed with magical power as he quickly cocked it back. Wendy jumped and pulled back her attack. The two of them yelled. Tenryu no Rasengan, Spiraling Sphere of the Sky Dragon. Akuryukin, Devil Dragon Fist. When the two attacks hit each other head-on, they caused another explosion. As the dust settled, Wendy was just a few feet away, on her knees, and about to fall over. Her spells and drive form have been gone for a long time, leaving her with no magical or physical reserves. She looked up and saw that her father wasn't even out of breath. Instead, he had a few scuffs on his uniform and his right arm's sleeve and glove were ripped off. But it was still a good job to leave some kind of damage on him. Naruto looked at the part of his hand that had hit Wendy's Rasengan. His hand was cut and scratched, but they were getting better over time. He looked and saw that his jacket sleeve was ripped up to the elbow. He smiled as he looked at his daughter. Not out of bad will, but out of pride. Pride for her. He soon began clapping and laughing like a maniac. Wonderful, my little sister. I wanted to see that in our most recent fight. When you use magic, your strength, speed, smarts, and creativity. Wendy looked at her dad and waited for him to tell her what was going on. You showed that you're strong when you blocked many of my attacks and even hurt my jacket. Something that is very hard to do because Hinata-chan made it strong and hard to break. Wendy nodded. You showed how fast you are by responding quickly to all of my attacks without wasting a single action. You were smart to know when to use an attack and when not to. Like Shozen. Wendy nodded once more. Finally, you showed creativity when you made your own attacks out of many of mine and your mother's, and when you came up with a plan at the last minute after our roar attacks hit each other. He went over to her and patted her on the head. My daughter, you are becoming a good dragon slayer. I couldn't be more pleased with you. Wendy was happy to hear that. If she had any strength left, she would have hugged him. Today has shown me that you might be ready for that trial, she said. Wendy shook her head in puzzlement. What's the trial? Naruto gave a head shake. Tonight, you'll find out about it. Wendy nodded to show she agreed. There must be a good reason for my dad to be so serious. After that, as the Makia sun goes down behind the horizon, the two go back to their camp. Wendy always wondered why there was a sun in hell, but she decided to just say that Giratina has some kind of magical power. She wondered what the other parts of the Makai were like and if they had a sun or moon too. Plus, since she was in hell, she wondered if Giratina would ever come to see her or her father. As she waited for dinner, she noticed that her father's eyes were half closed. This meant he was giving something a lot of thought. She knew this because she had spent so much time with him and noticed all the ways he showed how he felt. She thought it was funny that the Dragon King had any kind of strange habit. Well, he has a strange habit besides being a cruel person, but that's not the point. When it came to the Dragon King, Naruto was giving something a lot of thought. After talking with Grandini, it had been a while, and Naruto had increased Wendy's training to get her ready for the possible trial. Before he tried to teach Wendy Dragon Force, Naruto wanted Wendy to feel comfortable in her drive mode. Lucky for Wendy, she didn't question it and just took it in stride. But Naruto was thinking about how the hell he was going to tell his daughter that he had sealed Kurama's power in her. How was he going to tell her that he had turned her into a dragon by accident? How would she feel about his? He thought about how Minato must have felt when he turned Kurama into his own son. Did he think this when he was about to die? Did he think about how he would feel if he knew the truth? Naruto was so lost that he thought about his former father. So worried is he about what Wendy will say. Naruto sighed and shook his head to get rid of those ideas. When he kept thinking about this, he could only come up with what-if scenarios. He couldn't stop asking himself questions, and he didn't know how to stop. He sighed again, and when Wendy called his name, he looked at her. Yes, Chibiheim? Wendy gave him a dirty look because of the name, but she sighed before she asked her question. To-san, why have you been acting so strangely for the past few weeks? It's like you just found out something bad and are trying to figure out how to deal with it. Did I make a mistake? Please tell me what's wrong, To-san. I'm here to help. She was very honest in what she said. Naruto groaned. Good, now he's made his daughter think she did something wrong. In that way, she was the same as Hinata. If something is wrong with him, they both know it right away and think they did something wrong. Really, Wendy could be mistaken for Hinata's twin, except for the color of her eyes and hair. He sighed and decided it would be best to just tell her the truth and not try to hide it. So, before he spoke, he looked at his daughter. Okay, I want you to pay close attention and not talk over me until I'm done. Wendy agreed, and Naruto took a breath before talking again. Okay, Here's the thing. Last night, when I told you about my time in Konoha, Wendy snarls when I say the name of the village. I noticed something strange about your Dragonslayer magic. What's going wrong with my magic? Wendy was worried that her magic wasn't good enough or that she wouldn't be able to raise it to its full potential like Natsu, Gajeel, or even Laxus. I'll get to that, but first I have a question for you. Do you remember when you were very young, maybe 4 or 5, and I asked you to come with me to a remote part of the forest for something important? Wendy crossed her arms over her chest and closed her eyes while she thought. She almost looked like a cute blue fox. If Naruto were weaker, he would have gone crazy over how cute she looked. Flashback. Wendy-chan, please come on over here. Naruto put out a call. A cute 4-year-old girl came out of a small makeshift house. She wore a cute white dress and had short blue hair that reached her neck. The girl looks at Naruto, then gets a big smile on her face and runs up to him. Daddy. Naruto laughed as his daughter held onto his legs with all her might. It's good to see you again, Daddy. Where did you go? Where have you been? Did you come to see Grandini Ka-san? Are you going to tell me another Okawa-sama story? Is Auntie Irene or Annika-chan with you? Did you bring me something nice? Wendy asked Naruto question after question, and she didn't even look like she was getting tired. The blonde could only shake her head and laugh at how full of energy he was. He picks her up and kisses her on the cheek, which makes the little girl laugh. No, my Chibi-hime, not today. I want to give you something important. The little girl looked happy and told her dad to go first. The parent in question laughs as he walks into a quiet part of the woods near Wendy's house. He put his daughter down and then moved back a few steps. Then, he put his arm out and shut his eyes. Wendy saw her dad's face get very serious as a black and red ball came out of his hand. The orb was about the size of a melon, and if you looked closely enough, you could see the shape of a fox with 9 tails. Wendy didn't feel afraid of the evil orb. Instead, she looked at it with a strange sense of wonder. What's in the sphere, Tu-chan? Is this a gift? Can I use it to play? Oh. Can I eat it? She asked in an excited way. When Naruto opened his eyes to look at his daughter, the questions she was asking him made him laugh. You can't eat this, Wendy-chan. Wendy is sad. But it's free. Wendy did a complete about face and looked like her birthday came early, but then she got curious. What kind of a gift? Naruto smirked. A gift to help you get better at using your Dragonslayer magic and to keep you safe when your mother's and I can't be there to watch over you. Really? Will I get stronger from it? Naruto nodded. It's very powerful, but don't use it right away. I'll show you how to use it right when you're old enough. For now, it will only work in emergencies, until the time comes when you can control it yourself. He looked straight down at her. However, this power can hurt a lot of people and is very dangerous. I'd only give it to someone I'm sure has full control over it. Wendy was amazed by him. This power that her father wanted to give her was very dangerous, but it could also help her become even stronger. Still, her father wanted to give it to her. He wanted to give her a power that was so great. But the question was whether or not she could do it. Tu-chan, are you sure that is me? She asked in a cute way, do you think I can handle such a dangerous power? Naruto nodded. Yes, I do. I can't think of anyone else who could handle this power better than you. I think you can do it better than I could have. Anna and Grandini both agree with this. I'm sure Hinata would say the same thing if she were here. Everyone has faith in you, Wendy. I won't make you take this power, though. It's all up to you, my daughter. He said. Wendy felt her happiness shine through. Her father and mother both thought she was a good person. They all thought she could handle and control the power better than anyone, including her own father. She looks up at her father with eyes full of fire. I'll get it done, Tu-chan. I promise to make you proud. Wendy yelled with all her heart. You have already, Wendy. He thought, I know Hinata would be too. Then Naruto walked over and knelt down in front of her. He then puts the sphere of power in Wendy's chest and makes a few hand signs. Hake no Fuin Shiki, 8 trigram seal. Wendy gets a symbol on her chest, but it disappears as if it was never there. Wendy looked at her chest and was both confused and a little sad. I had no feelings. Wendy said, I'm not impressed. Naruto just looked amused at the remark. That's something good. As someone who learned how to seal things on their own, it's my job to make sure when I seal something, I try to make it as easy as I can. Even more so when it comes to my sweet little princess. Wendy giggled. Naruto then got to his feet. Okay, I'll help you with that when you're older. So just put it out of your mind for now. Wendy's big brown eyes looked at him. Promise? I promise. I always do what I say, my Chibiheim. Wendy was happy. Let's go get some food now. Your moms must be worried about you. Yay. Little Wendy cheered with joy and then ran out of the forest quickly. As he chased after her, Naruto laughed. Hinata-chan, she is so much like you. I hope you are looking down on us with a smile, my beautiful Moon Queen. We will always be linked, no matter how far away you are. End of flashback. Wendy smiled as she thought back on the time. It was one of the few good things she could remember about her father. She didn't understand why she could only remember small pieces. She was very young, so it was possible, but she thought it was something else. She felt like she was forgetting something very important, but she couldn't figure out what it was. She chose to talk to her father about Anna and something else. Yeah, I remember now. It was a good memory of us. I don't remember much, but I've always held that memory and a few others close to my heart. It's one of the few memories I have of you. But what does this have to do with the orb you gave me? She said, I remember that when I saw the orb, I felt a dark presence, and when I looked inside, I saw a fox with 9 tails. Was that Kurama Gigi's chakra that you gave me? Naruto nodded to show that he agreed. Yes, hi, that was Kurama's chakra. I knew you couldn't finish your Dragon Slayer training in the time you had, no matter how skilled you were. I wanted to give you an extra push to help you get stronger, and the chakra would activate to protect you. Wendy stared blankly at her father. Dad, I've been in some pretty dangerous situations up until now, and I think the seal you used was broken. Naruto just chuckled. No, not really. The seal was perfect, but the problem was that mixing demon chakra with Dragon Slayer magic had unintended effects. What do you mean? You need to know something about your magic before I can explain. What is it? Dragon Slayer magic, like any other kind of magic, has its own risks when you learn it. Wendy began to worry. What sort of dangers? The original goal of dragon slaying magic was to give humans the power to fight alongside dragons in the Great War that happened 400 years ago. We were soldiers who fought to protect our dragon brothers and sisters, and we were willing to put everything on the line, even our lives, to do so. I was one of the people in that group. In fact, Irene and I were the first people like us. We were the ones who first thought of using magic to kill dragons. People said that we were the king and queen of our time who killed dragons. We thought we could make a big difference. We thought that we could change it for the better. But we never thought about how the things we did might affect other people in the world. Wendy was paying close attention to the story because she knew something bad was going to happen. It was during the war that we found out that learning Dragon Slayer magic can have bad effects. The first is that if a person's body can't adjust to the power, it will slowly burn from overuse and eventually be destroyed from the inside out until they are nothing but dust and ashes. Wendy looked scared at the thought of seeing her friends turn into ashes right in front of her. Her father had probably seen it before, too. The second sign was that a Dragon Slayer's dragon half took over and turned them into mindless beasts. These monsters had no morals and killed everyone and everything that got in their way. There was no way to bring them back, so we had to kill them. We lost a lot of friends to their inner beasts, and all we could do was end their pain and feel bad that we had something to do with them going crazy. Okay, if she felt bad before, now Wendy felt terrible for her father. She could never imagine seriously hurting one of her comrades, so the idea of having to kill them was so foreign to her that she could never even think about doing something like that. Now Wendy's father was forced to fight in a war he probably didn't want to be in, and had to kill many of his friends as the only way to get them out of danger. What was the third sign, Tu-chan? Naruto groaned. Well, the third sign is something that all Dragon Slayers had to take a chance on when they were learning. As your magic got stronger, you became a stronger Dragon Slayer. But this also changed who you were as a person. You became angry, moody, and worst of all, you wanted to kill people. The need to eat got worse the more blood you spilled. You'll want it more and more until you have to literally bathe in it to quench your thirst and eat your dragons to get even more energy. Over time, your hands turned into claws, your feet turned into talons, your teeth turned into fangs, Your skin turned into scales, you got wings and a tail, and finally. Naruto stopped for a moment and looked at his daughter, who was shocked by what he was implying. Do you mean you turn into a dragon? She said in a scary way. That's what happens when you learn Dragon Slayer magic, Naruto said with a nod. You will become the thing you are trying to catch. This is the best example of irony. Naruto said, the same irony can be said about people who kill demons, but he kept his last words to himself. Wendy was shocked to learn that a real person could turn into a dragon, but then she looked at her father. What do you think? Me? When I went to Zeref, I was already changing into a dragon. Zeref just sped up the process and changed it so that it became much more demonic. Dad, though, what does this have to do with me? I understand why it's important to know where Dragon Slayer comes from. But what does it mean for me? Sad, Naruto looked at her. It has many effects on you, my dear. It's part of why Grandini left you. What? Asks Wendy, wide-eyed. She said softly. She went away because she didn't want you to become a Dragon Slayer. It's also why you and the others were brought to this time, so you wouldn't have to go through the hardships of the W. What? Wendy screamed, so her father had to stop what he was saying. Naruto looked at her and wasn't surprised by her outburst at all. He had expected it, but he thought it would happen much sooner. What do you mean by, to this time period, to-chan? She asked in a low voice. Naruto sighed and then looked sad-eyed at Wendy. What I mean is that, as the war got worse, many of us didn't know if we would live or die. So, we came up with a plan to send young Dragon Slayers to the future, where they could hopefully live a happy life and grow up to be strong enough to fight the Dark Army's remnants and Zeref if he ever became a threat to the world. Naruto groaned. Unfortunately, many of our good candidates were taken from this world too soon because of my psychotic episode. Only 5 Dragon Slayers got to the future in the end. You, Natsu, Gajeel, Sting, and Rogue were all there. The day X777, when you thought your dragons had left you, was actually the day you came to this time period. Wendy just sat there, quietly digesting what she just heard. She's not from this period. She's from 400 years in the past. She would have called her father crazy, but a lot of things began to make more sense. When she first came under the care of Mistogen and Rubol, she couldn't read anything that was written and had to learn from scratch. She wondered why she had such a tough time when she remembered reading so well before. It was because she was used to reading a different language. This also brings to light an incident that happened with Natsu and Gajeel when Laxus tried to take over the guild. They were stuck, because of a rune wall that forbade anyone past 80 from going through. Natsu and Gajeel never understood why they couldn't get through. Even Fried was baffled by it. But now it makes sense. They were all from a different period. It all made sense. Hell, it explains why she felt some familiarity with Natsu and Gajeel when she first them. She knew them from the distant past. She wondered who Sting and Rogue are, but decided to question her father later, and focus on what was on her mind now. If that's true, why do we all forget everything? It's because your minds weren't mature enough to handle the time loop, which hurts some of your mental abilities, especially your memories. It's why you only remember bits and pieces or just have a feeling that you should know something. How did we arrive at this time? We used an eclipse gate, which was made by Zeref. But we needed the help of a celestial spirit mage to make it work. Anna-chan, on the other hand, was a perfect fit. Wendy didn't expect that. Anna Kachin was a celestial spirit mage? Naruto nodded. She was the best celestial spirit mage who had ever lived in Earthland. She was the family's oldest member. She was beautiful and blonde. I was married to her. Anna Heartfilia. Wendy got stuck on a bit of air, and her eyes got as big as saucers. Wait, what? She yelled at her dad. I thought her last name was Marvell, and you got your name from that? The girl's head shook. That's a good idea, but Marvell came from someone to whom I owe a lot. Someone in our lives that we both know very well. Wait. If Anna Kachin was the family matriarch, then Lucy is why you're. Naruto nodded. Yes, Lucy is my last descendant on her mother's side of the family. You can just call her your older sister if you want to keep things simple. Naruto thought, her and one other person, but you don't need to know that until later. The last thing I need is for you to make a big deal out of my relationship with Anna and Irene. For the second time, Wendy just stood there dumbfounded at what she had just heard. She had a sister. She had a sister. And her name was Lucy. She had never thought that one of the people she was closest to in her guild was related to her. She wondered if she had any other siblings, but she decided to ask about that later. What does this have to do with my power, Tu-san? The Kyuubi chakra had some effects on your Dragonslayer magic that you did not expect. Instead of being separate from your magic, it mixed with your draconian side and turned into something else. Wendy's face showed worry. What effect did this have on my magic? Well, on the bright side, it killed the dragon seed inside you that grows to turn you into a dragon. The bad thing is that you can turn into a dragon whenever you want. You are now a Dragonslayer from the 4th generation, just like me and your Aunt Irene. Wendy's eyes were almost going to pop out of her head. What? You heard me, and one day you'll be able to change into a dragon like me and my friends. I can take on the form of a dragon? Wendy asked, still having trouble believing that you could turn into a dragon. The girl's head shook. Not immediately. You won't be able to get there unless you train well and get the forms for Dragon Force and beyond. Wendy lowered her head. Did you know I'd be in this situation? He said. No, I didn't do that, and I wish I could change my mind. Wendy looked up and just stared at her father. Why? Because I didn't want you to make the same mistakes I did. I wanted you to be more successful than me. And now I'm doing the same thing as you. So I feel bad that my stupid choice will cause you trouble in the future. Wendy walked up to her father and gave him a hug, which surprised Naruto, but he did it back. She said in a whisper, "It's not your fault." He looks at her then. What? Wendy then gives him a smile. It's not your fault, father. You could not have known about the dragonification, and there's no way you could have known the effects of my Dragonslayer magic Kurama's chakra would have on me. So please don't continue to place the blame on your shoulders. I'm partly responsible for accepting the orb. I knew the risks and took them. You believed I could handle, and I know I can do it, but I need your help to do so. So please help me master this power, Daddy. Naruto keeps staring at his daughter with awe until he stands up and gives her a kiss on the head. He said, "Thanks, my Chibiheim." She said, with a blush, "No problem, Tu-chan." So, are you up for the task? I was ready from birth. Naruto smirked. Okay, there's something you need to know. She sat down again. Now, every Dragonslayer has a draconian half, but each one is different depending on a number of factors. Wendy's head was tilted. What types of factors? Well, things like the dragon that taught you and how you are as a person all affect how the draconian half of you will act. How you and your draconian half treat each other depends on the person. Some get along great from the get-go, while others take some time to get along. But even if they get along, trying to fully merge is a very hard task, and this will be especially hard for you. Not only do you have to worry about Kurama's chakras mixing, but also about your own inner darkness. Wendy asked again, my inner darkness? Everyone has it, but Dragonslayers have it the most. The best example would be Jinchuriki. Wendy's eyes get small when she hears that comparison. She knows this is bad news. Because of their bad childhoods, Jinchuriki tend to have a very unhealthy hatred of the world. However, many of them, like me, tried to keep this hatred inside, which made it grow its own consciousness in the form of our true selves, our inner darkness. Wendy said, so not only did my Gigi's chakra mix with my draconian half, but it also mixed with my inner darkness. Yes, and it gets worse when you think bad things about it. My negative thoughts? Wendy asked, wondering how her negative thoughts could affect her inner darkness. You're saddens over your mothers. Wendy didn't say anything when she heard this. You're jealous of your fellow guild members. You feel like you're the weakest link on your team. You're jealous of how much stronger your fellow Dragonslayers are than you are. Wendy cringed when she heard this. It bothers you that some of the members treat you like a child and that your other Exceed partner is always looking out for you. Wendy jerked again and then looked down. Stop being so angry and mean to me in Rubol. Wendy jerked her head up and was going to say something, but Naruto stopped her. Wendy, you know it's true. You were angry and sad when Rubol left you, and you feel like I abandoned you even though you know why I left. Wendy was going to say something, but she didn't because she knew a lot of what Naruto said was true. Now, since every draconian side is different, I can't tell you how yours will act. All I can say is to be ready for anything and don't reject her. She is a part of you, and you must accept her, or you'll never finish your Dragonslayer training. Wendy nodded. Naruto sighed and said, I understand. He then started making dinner for the two of them. We'll start your test tomorrow morning, Naruto said. Your trial to get Dragon Force. Wendy nodded, determined to get through whatever tomorrow's trial might be. The next day, Naruto was telling Wendy what Dragon Force was all about. There are several ways to get Dragon Force and turn it on. You can eat a lot of magic energy, preferably of your element, to get a lot of magic energy. The second way is to train for years to be able to turn it on and off at will, which we don't have right now. Killing a dragon is the last option. What? Wendy cried out. Naruto didn't even move when she was startled. You listen. To get Dragon Force, you have to kill a dragon. How do you think the people who killed dragons before you did it? I also did it. But I have found a way for you to get out of it. One I made up while the war was going on. But how? She asked, really wanting to know what her dad's answer was. I will call an ethereal dragon out of your mind. That means I'll bring your dragon side out into the open, but only the part that has your Dragon Force powers. Defeat it, and you'll get the form. Wendy took a deep breath and gave her dad a determined look before speaking. I'm ready to go to war. Naruto nodded. Wendy, be ready for anything. Naruto then made a number of hand signs. Seal magic release, calling the inner dragon. Naruto's hand got a magic seal, and Wendy's chest got one, too. Wendy was suddenly surrounded by a magical glow that grew until it towered over the two. The ethereal energy tore itself apart before jumping to the other side, across from Wendy, and starting to take the shape of wings, claws, and tails. The shape of Grandini was taken by the ethereal dragon. Wendy was snarled at by the fake Grandini. Are you ready to fight, girl? Wendy gave a snarl of defiance. Come on, fake. Wendy was pushed away by the fake dragon's roar, but she was able to stand her ground. She puts her arms out to show that she has two seals on her wrists. Before two weapons came out, the seals lit up. Both were short swords that looked almost exactly the same. Both had gold accents on a black handle. In the middle was the yin-yang sign. Only the color of the blades was different. One was as white as an eggshell, and the other was as black as charcoal with red accents. The two swords were called Bakuya and Kanshu. They were a weapon that her mother used, and her father taught her how to use it. Veneer, arms, armor. Then Wendy threw both blades at the fake. Then, she and Fupo go away in a blur. The dragon looks hurt and sighs as it pushes the blades away. But the blades are no longer there. The fake dragon looks up and sees Wendy flying through the air holding both swords. She uses her wind power to make ethereal blades appear on the swords, and then she yells. Air X slash. The attack hits the dragon's head, which makes it back away in pain. In response, it gave a low growl. Tenryu no Kajizum, Sky Dragon's Claw. Tenryu no Saiga, Crushing Fang. Wendy manages to avoid the first attack, and she uses the Katen to stop the second one. But the force was enough to make it fall back down. Wendy gets up quickly and throws the blades again. But the blades broke apart and became many copies of themselves. Wendy calls up 3 copies of the wind. Then, in a blur of wind, all 4 Wendys go away. The blades keep going around the fake, making it more and more angry. You poor little chick. You think this kind of cheap trick will scare me? Fight me, you weakling. The fake roars move the blades out of the way. But one of 4 Wendys walks up to the fake and yells. Solar flare. The fake cries because its eyes feel like they are on fire. Then Wendy goes away again, and then all 4 Wendys with blades appear all around the fake. The 4 Dragon Slayers, which are all the same, come down and attack the blind dragon. X slash. 2 air slashes. Slash the air. Slash the edge. The fake roars in pain as it is hit over and over again. It tries to hit all of them, but it only hits one of them. When it fails, it only hits the trees and plants around it. Wendy and her clones put down their weapons and move in for another attack. Tenryu no Kajizum. Tenryu no Yokugeki. Sky Dragon's Wing Attack. Tenryu no Saiga. Again, the dragon cries out in pain as it is pushed back. The 3 fall down in front of the dragon and attack at the same time. Tenryu no Tatsumaki. The 3 sky tornadoes came together to make a huge tornado that was heading straight for the fake Tatsumaki. The fake snarls in anger as soon as it can see again. How could she? This little brat thinks it will fall down so easily? It won't just stand there like a scared chick. It's time for this to go. You spoiled brat. You think I'll fall so easily? It's time to fall. The fake roars and then takes a big breath before yelling. Tenryu no Tatsumaki. The fake starts a huge tornado of its own. When the two storms met, they made a huge wind explosion that looks like an even bigger tornado going up into the sky. All of Wendy's copies disappear, and the explosion hurts both the real Wendy and the fake dragon. As the winds die down, both Wendy and the fake are taking in all of the extra wind from the blast. Both shout quickly. Tenryu no Hoko. Both of them do what they do best. The two start to fight because neither of them is willing to give in to the other. But the fake is sneaky, and it sends its tails down into the ground and up right under Wendy. This throws Wendy off balance and takes her mind off her attacks. The fake dragon smiles in an evil way and roars as loud as it can. Wendy crosses her arms in a weak attempt to defend herself. But it was a waste of time. Wendy was right in the middle of the roaring tornado when it hit her. She let out a painful scream as she was thrown back through trees and rocks for at least a few miles. The damage done by the fake's attack can't be seen because of a huge cloud of dust. The fake celebrates loudly. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. Look at that, you worthless chick. Did you think you could beat me? You're a wimp. A sad attempt at being a dragon slayer. You do not deserve to have the power of the dragon force. The dragon keeps making fun of Wendy, but Naruto does nothing but watch. It really wanted to rip that stupid gecko's head off, but it knew that was Wendy's job and had to trust that Wendy would do a good job. Wendy, come on. I know that this won't be enough to stop you. You have been through much worse from our spars. My dear, you really do deserve the name, Dragon Slayer. Now prove it. Show this fake, show your inner dragon that you deserve to be in Dragon Force. Naruto thought about how to get Wendy to stand up. Wendy Marvell, get up. Wendy felt bad. She hurt all over her body because she had been cut and scratched so many times. She gets up painfully and sees that she is bleeding a lot because there is a small pool of blood under her body. Ah, I'm in so much pain I can hardly stay awake. When Tu-chan said that the fake wouldn't hold back, he wasn't joking. As Wendy slowly gets up, she jerks more and more. Buddha. Wendy is finally standing, though she is still shaky. She mutters, I've come too far to let some part of my subconscious get in the way. Wendy uses a shosen on herself. She knows that doing this will cost her some magic, but it is a cost that must be paid. She sighs after she has managed to make the worst cuts less painful by making them smaller. Then Wendy starts to take in the magical energy in the air and starts to change. She had a determined look in her eyes as she looked forward. It's time to beat that cocky fake dragon down. The other two suddenly feel a huge amount of magical power. Both try hard to see Wendy driving. What the heck? The fake in her head yelled, where did this girl get all this power? Naruto was happy as could be. That's right. Show that pretend dragon slayer what it means to be one. Wendy calls up 2 copies of the wind and opens another weapon. Hinata's other main weapon is a black bow. She yells, it's time to end this fight. Then Wendy gets ready to shoot as a ghostly arrow appears on her shooting arm. Arrows barrage. Wendy shoots an arrow that splits into hundreds of arrows as the 2 wind clones disappear. The fake dragon doesn't care about the arrows and bats them all away. Then, all of a sudden, the wind clones appeared above the fake dragon and began to attack. Tenryu no Shippo, Sky Dragon's tail. Tenryu no Yokugeki. The 2 attacks hit the fake, making it hiss in pain. Before it could fight back, the real Wendy with a glowing arrow on her bow appears right in front of it. Grab it. Wendy screams as the Eternano wraps around the end of her arrow. Arrow's shockwave. When the arrow is shot, it has a huge aura around it. The arrow hit the fake dead in the chest and went deep into it. The fake roars because it is in so much pain. It's busy, so attack. Again, the 2 clones attack. The energy of one clone goes to her leg, while the energy of the other goes to her arm. Wendy lets go of her bow and fills both of her arms with energy. They all shout. Tenryu no Tenku Haya. The first sky arrow of the Sky Dragon. Tenryu no Kusho. The vacuum palm of the Sky Dragon. Sky Dragon's vacuum wall palm, Tenryu no Kuikisho. The 3 attacks hit around where the arrow hit, making the fake roar in pain and rage. It screams, "Enough!" And all three fall to the ground. I will not lose to a lonely child. Wendy and her copies definitely look at each other. She takes a look at her copies. She says, "Let's stop this," and her two clones nod. One of the clones goes behind the other and yells, "Ill arms. Ill veneer. Ill armor," before dispersing. Then the two Wendys yell, saying, "Tenryu no Namiroshi." The wave tornado encircles the fake, but she is able to fly above it. The attack did hurt her, though. Then the fake starts rushing her attack. Wendy wraps wind around her feet and starts to slowly rise off the ground. "Fly. Tobu." Wendy says something as she pushes herself up into the air. A spell that she made with the help of her father, and after seeing Natsu do the same thing with fire as his thrusters. She puts all of her power in the palms of her hands. The fake is a joke. "You think you'll be able to get to me?" Wendy just smirks. "Not by myself." The fake is confused until she sees the clone attacking from below. Metsuryu Ogi, Shoha Tenkuzan. Wendy was hit by the beam, but it didn't hurt her. Instead, it sent her like a bullet to the fake. The fake's eyes get bigger, and she knows she's going to die. Wendy takes the last sky drill and adds it to her attack. "It's time to stop. This is my fight. Tenryu no Rasengan." She yells. The attack hits the spot where the arrow got stuck. Wendy moves forward and her attack pushes through the fake to hit the dragons. Wendy falls to the ground, out of breath. "That's all," she says. She looks up and sees the fake writhing and screaming because the hole in its chest hurts. As she falls to the ground, it keeps roaring in pain. The fake's pain keeps getting worse, but eventually it starts to calm down. It seems like Wendy is looking at it, seeing what she will do next. Wendy is shocked when the dragon smiles at her. A smile that reminded her of how strict her mother was. Soon, the dragon will start to go away. Before it starts to fall apart, it says to Wendy, "Good job, Dragon Slayer," it said before going away. The energy strands then head straight for Wendy and get back into her body. She feels like she's on fire and screams in pain as a flash of light wraps around her. As the sun sets, she gets down on her hands and knees and pants. She says, "Huff. Huff. That hurt. Huff," and then she stands up and sees something. She looks at herself from every angle and notices that she has changed. She looks at herself and can't believe how different she is. Her arms looked more like claws. Several white feathers were wrapped around her wrists. Her arms and legs had scales that stood out more. They made her skin look very pale. Her hair was now all pink and a little bit shaggy. She had two small wings on her back. She had more pronounced whisker marks on her cheeks, and her eyes were now blood red and slitted. It was done by Wendy. She'd reached the Dragon Force level. She hears clapping, and when she looks up, her father is smiling big. "Congratulations, my cute girl. Dragon Force is now open to you." Wendy is happy to see her dad. "That was much harder than I thought it would be. I'm surprised I didn't die." Naruto had a laugh. "I've been training you for one. 2, if it got too bad, I would have stopped it. Lastly, your dragon side doesn't want to kill you. It wants you to be as strong as possible so that it, too, can be as strong as possible. So that fake dragon will only be strong enough to push you to your limits, but not kill you." Wendy was about to say something when she started to feel dizzy. The world was spinning, and then all of a sudden it went dark as she passed out. "Well, looks like you're about to meet her. Be careful with your darkness, or it will sneak up on you and eat you up." Wendy looks around and is amazed by how beautiful everything is. She especially likes how clear the sky is and how pretty the plants are. "This is a beautiful place, but where am I? If we were leaving, my dad would have told me. I don't think this is a dream. Not exactly, at least." Then, as she looks around, an idea comes to her. She says out loud, "Is this my inner world?" "Yes, Wendy Marvell, it is. Or perhaps I should say, our inner world," a dark voice said behind her. Wendy turned around and was shocked to see a woman who looked just like her, except that she had dark hair and red eyes that were slit open. The whites of her eyes were completely black, which made her look very evil. "Hi, Wendy. I am you, Darkness." She said this to make fun of him. She bowed and said, "Hello, it's nice to meet you, Darkness." Dark Wendy fell on her face. I look scary, and that's all you've got to say? She asked in shock. Well, I'm not going to be a jerk to you, because that would mean I have a problem with myself. And the only thing I don't like about myself is how big my cups are. Dark Wendy groaned because she was upset. Wendy was just confused looking. What's wrong with you? Because you are me, you should do all of this. Dark Wendy just kept looking at Wendy and then laughed. Yeah, well, I guess I should. Wendy decided to ask some questions of her dark half. So what are you exactly? Besides my dark side and a crap ton of other things? Well, just like your father, Dark Wendy started, but was cut off. Our grandfather. Wendy was wrong. Dark Wendy groaned. You're right, father. Wendy was happy. I am the power of the fox, the way you think like a dragon, and your own darkness all rolled into one being. But your inner darkness is more than just your anger and hatred. It also includes your feelings of desire. What do I feel? Wendy didn't know what to do. I know you've always thought you were weak, that you're jealous of your nakama, and that you're angry at your father for leaving you. Hate for what that stupid village had done to him. Wendy should just listen, since she already knows all this from last night's conversation. I also know about your little crush on that special boy and how you love to get your claws on him and play with him like a little toy. Dark Wendy said this while licking her lips and laughing in a strange way. Wendy just turned so red that it was like an atomic level. Was she that late of a pervert, or did her father have something to do with it? But Dark Wendy put an end to that idea. Before you say that your dad had nothing to do with this, think again. Like everyone else, you've always had these thoughts. You just stopped them, but a dragon knows what you did. What it's after. Even more so in a possible mate or mates. At the end, Dark Wendy laughed again. Wendy shook her to get her to stop blushing and answer the questions. Okay, my dad told me that what dragon taught me and who I am make me different. Dark Wendy nodded to say yes. So, let me ask, what do you want? What are you looking for? From us? Wendy asked. I'm not sure how to ask that. Wendy hummed to herself as she thought. Odd question, indeed. What should I do? Well, I am you. I am what you really want, Wendy. The you who really knows what you want. Dark Wendy is thinking about what to say. I want us to be as good as we can. I want our parents to be happy with us. I want the boy that we both want. Dark Wendy stared directly into Wendy's eyes. I also want all of that turned up to 11. Wendy then looked at her dark self straight in the eyes. She needed to ask something that had been bothering her ever since she heard about her. Are you going to take charge? If I have to, I will fight you. Wendy said. Dark Wendy's eyebrow was raised. I thought you said you see me as a part of yourself? She was confused and didn't know what she was thinking, so she asked. Wendy nodded to show that she agreed. Yes, but that doesn't mean I want you to take charge and tell everyone else what to do. With a fierce look, Wendy said. Dark Wendy kept looking at her, and then she laughed out loud. H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A-H-A. You are really strange. You do know that, don't you? Wendy just gave a shrug as an answer. What do you expect, given who your father is? Dark Wendy nodded and said, too true. He also told me that you control my dragon form. Is this true, too? I have that power in your Sky Dragon Queen mode. Wendy nodded again. What do I need to do in order to get it? Dark Wendy sighed before answering. It's not as easy as just telling you that you can use it. Right now, you can't handle that much power. Even if we worked together, you wouldn't be able to control the form completely. You can't play elemental mode until you've mastered drive mode and dragon force. So it's the same as with Jinchuriki. Even if we work together, my mind and body can't handle the stress. Even more so if I let myself get into a berserk rage? Dark Wendy nodded. Right, Wendy, I didn't expect you to be like you are, but that doesn't mean we're best friends. I still want to hurt all the people who hurt us and our families. I want all the pleasures the world has to offer and to be the strongest dragon slayer of our time. Wendy looked a little bit sad about this. Does that mean you don't want to help at all? Wendy in the dark shook her head. Oh, I'm happy to help, because if you die, I'll die with you. But don't get me wrong. I want you to lose control so I can take over and kill everyone who is against us. What about the seal that our father put on you and the power that Kurama has? Dark Wendy just shook her head and said that the seal was gone after the merging. All it did was hold her back, but that stopped when she did her trial for Dragon Force. Wendy then thought about a way for her and her dark side to get along. What do you think? You and my dad, please help me keep our power in check. You give me your power, and when I use it, you have some control over it, but I am still in charge. Dark Wendy thought, She was interested in the deal, but there was something that bothered her. I'm interested in what you're offering, but I have to ask. What's the point of this? You get to go out and hurt our enemies or people who deserve it, just as you wanted. Plus, I'd rather do this than fight you for power. You are me, and I want every part of me to get along with itself. Dark Wendy did nothing but keep looking at her. I might make you lose your temper, she replied. Maybe, but something tells me I'll lose control whether or not you're involved. Dad told us that Jinchuriki often lose control until they learn how to control their power. Even so, they may still have some episodes. I may be tricking you. Wendy just gave a head shake. You wouldn't have gotten this far if you were lying. We are not like that at all. We are both simple, even though you are a lot more difficult. Wendy stared Dark Wendy in the eyes. I want us to be friends because we are both named Wendy Marvell. We make up her other half. You gave me a boost when I was sad and lonely. You were the one who got me through those hard times when our parents weren't around. Then Wendy's dark half was shocked when Wendy bowed to her. So, thank you very much for everything. She then looked up, stuck out her hand, and smiled very big. Friends? Dark Wendy hesitated, but she still shook her hand. A strange alliance. I hope this won't make you feel bad, Wendy. Wendy could only shake her head. I'm sure I won't. Thank you for giving it a try. Dark Wendy's eyes rolled. Whatever. Wendy soon lost her shine. Dark Wendy smirked. It's time to go back to our father. Wendy blushed before giggling. Yeah. She said, see you soon, and then she was gone. Dark Wendy just sighed. I hope your choice is the right one, Wendy. You'd better not be sorry. Your magic is tied to how you feel. If you let your sadness or anger control you, you will automatically use my power. So if you lose control, that would be all on you, and I would have nothing to do with it other than giving you the power or, in some cases, you taking it subconsciously before I take it back to have some fun. Wendy woke up at her campsite. She looked in the mirror and saw that she was back to herself. She took a look around and saw that her dad was making dinner. He looked up at her and smiled. Welcome back, my little princess. So, tell me about your talk with your dark side, he asked. Wendy told them what had happened. What Dark Wendy was like, how she explained what she was, and the deal she made with her. Before patting her head, Naruto listened to all of this. Chibi-hime, I'm proud of you. You handled it well and with maturity. Like a real dragon slayer should. Wendy was happy to hear that. But your dark side was right, you will have to be careful when using her power or you will lose control. If you do that, you might hurt someone you care about. Wendy nodded. Then Naruto made them dinner and told them about the rest of the plan. For the rest of the training time, I'll teach you how to use Dragon Force whenever you want. Next, I'll work on your mind so you can keep your feelings in check and defend yourself against mental attacks from your opponents. Last but not least, we'll check to see if you have the Byakugan and then teach you how to use your darker powers. Wendy thought for a while before she asked a question she had been thinking about for a while. Dad, I want you to teach me how to be a shinobi. The request seemed to surprise Naruto. He asked, what? Because he wasn't sure he heard right. Wendy had a determined look in her eyes as she looked at him. I want to be like you and Okawa-sama. I want to know what you both went through when you were ninjas. Naruto looked unsure. Are you sure? This is going to make your training even harder. Wendy nodded to show that she agreed. He could see that her eyes were burning. She was really set on getting this done. She wouldn't accept no as an answer. Naruto just laughed and shook his head. She really is the same as you and your sister, Hinata. Anna. Well, we've done things that are similar to shinobi training, like teach you how to control your magic and give you basic information about storage seals. We've also helped you make wind clones. I'll have to add a few things to our training schedule, but I think I can make it work. Naruto gave Wendy a serious look as he looked at her. Wendy, I'll make you a shinobi. You will become a ninja if I teach you. The second shinobi mage on Earth. Daughter, are you ready for this? Wendy just gave him a cheeky grin. What the hell? Naruto smirked. Then we'll start the last part of your GMC training tomorrow.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.